Jia Rastogi, thank you so much for coming in. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Is this your first interview?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
So, why I ask you to come in? So, this young lady, 16 years old, and she just wrote a book. Okay? So, I'm going to repeat just in case people need to digest it. She's 16 years old. She just wrote a book and she owns a couple of businesses. One is a gifting business with your sister.
Yeah.
And you helping your parents into properties. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
No, pleasure. So let's go back. So you born and bred in Sydney?
Yeah.
Okay. Sisters, brothers?
I have one sister. She's 11, 12.
She's 12.
Yeah.
Okay. And you are 16.
Yeah.
Okay. Where is this mindset of, writing a book? Where did it all start? There must be a day. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, there are your parents that probably influenced you, I believe.
Yeah, they did.
Okay. And how did it all start?
Yeah. I mean, I guess my first memory of, property in general was that my dad was working on this renovation project, and me and my family, we went down to see what he was up to and what he was doing.
Right.
And he asked me he told me, he was like, if you do these 3 simple tasks, then you'll get a cupcake in return. And I was like, I had a sweet tooth. So of course I was like, that's perfect. I'm going to do this. So it was just painting a door, something really simple with a paintbrush. And then I got a cupcake at the end. It was a vanilla cupcake, blue icing. It was like delicious.
Yeah.
But that was my first, I guess, memory of property. And ever since then, the conversations about financial literacy or like investing, it started all popping up, and it started, really influencing me in a way.
So, okay. So your dad said, hey, you want cupcakes? Help me out.
Yeah.
So
pretty much.
Tattooed this kind of like, in life, if you want to get something, you need to give something.
Exactly.
That's, I would say, is the basic of a business, healthy business.
Yeah.
Well done. Okay. And how did the book came about? Tell me, how did you start?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it comes down to, I was in year 7. So I'm in year 12 now. So in year 7, I was working with my parents, learning about property. My dad was teaching me a bunch. He was, whiteboard explanations or like telling me to which books to read. And then that's when I started learning a lot about financial literacy. And I realized that so many of my friends didn't have that kind of influence or exposure to these concepts. And that's when I realized that maybe I should, write a book. I got the idea in year 8, but I started thinking about, the characters and the descriptions, what the storyline could be. But then I kind of left it at that because, I was a bit nervous, kind of young.
Yes.
And then it was at the start of 2023 where I had a really rough draft, but then again, school got in the way. So then I left it all there.
Right.
And then it's been almost a year that I've been actively working on it. So, working on the structure, because the way the book's structured, it's very much about the conversations that the characters have.
Yeah.
Rather than, step A, step B, step 3. So then I wanted to make sure the concepts flowed from one to another. So it made sense of how they're discussing one thing and then it moves on to the next thing. Because the way the characters are, made, because it's all fictional, so the way the characters are made, they all have opposing views on everything. So they're debating or discussing. So then it gives the reader a feel of maybe the reader can relate to what some of the characters are saying as well because of how it's structured. So I mean, I got a final I had a draft that I was happy with in about May, and that's when I started working with a self-publisher in Canada. And then I started reaching out to a bunch of financial experts or founders and people in the industry, and they came back to me with a bunch of awesome suggestions or things that I could add, some feedback. And even though the plan was to get it finished before my 16th birthday, it was so many good things that they like said that could improve it or take it to the next level. So I delayed the deadline a bit and we focused on, implementing those things and then being able to, get the best version out there rather than just something.
Just a book.
Yeah, just a book. So that's what I think really brought it to the next level.
Interesting. So it's been a long process.
Very long.
Okay. Yeah, that's so interesting. So you started. So now going back to you say your dad asked you to read certain book first, and that's where you got the idea.
Yeah.
Can you mention a couple of books that you started that gave you the idea?
Yeah. So I guess one of the really simple books is Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like
small book, but
it's powerful about the mindset and the personal development. And then there was also Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes.
It talked about, so a bunch of concepts from there are also in my book as well. So, when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I was in year 7. So, a lot of the concepts were quite, confusing to me, obviously.
Yeah.
So I guess in a way, my book, it breaks them down a bit further to a way that my year 7 self could understand it. Because otherwise, it was just a bunch of, hard words and, things that didn't make sense. But the way that the book's written, it's more about, Sam, he's the main character. He'll talk about something and then, for example, Evelyn will be like, oh, wait, what does PBR mean? And then they start explaining that stuff. And then it just flows on in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love when you said, so I did read both these books.
Yeah.
Rich Dad Poor Dad was explaining the quadrant, employee, self-employee. And I love that you say that, like, you break it down in in simple words to make anyone to understand the concept. Okay. What chapter in your book people can have a look? That you explain a little bit more the details about this.
Yeah.
Do you remember the chapter? No. It's all spread everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's basically it's kind of split up into 2 parts, I guess. Yeah. So the first section is more about the personal development, setting the goals, the vision, understanding that if you want to, invest in property or invest in stocks, you need to first understand why you're doing it in the first place.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Because there's no reason of, why would you take such a big risk if you don't have a reason of why you're doing it?
Yeah.
So that first half of the book is more about, understanding, like in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the cash flow quadrants, or understanding the law of attraction, the scarcity mindset. And then the second half of the book is more about the financial literacy. So understanding the concepts like compounding or leveraging or pyramiding. So it's kind of split up in a way that way.
That's amazing. I love that. And when I was looking at your book, they don't teach you this stuff at school.
Yeah.
Which leads me to the next question. Like, you're going to school, you got the teacher, you probably, as a 16 years old, know more with certain teacher, maybe they're teaching another topic. Yeah. Okay. What's the reactions of people in your school? And this can be friends or teachers.
Yeah.
Tell us, please, the positive reactions.
Yeah.
And tell us, please, the negative reactions.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I didn't really tell many people about it when I was starting out because obviously I was scared about, people
being judged.
Being judged. Or I wanted to show like, oh, look, here's what I've done rather than, oh, I'm working on this. And then everyone would be skeptical about it. So I guess when I told everyone, though, everyone was, quite shocked and surprised. They were like, there's no way you've just written a book about money. Like, because I go to a selective school, so Manly Selective.
Yeah.
So it's very focused on, academics or like understanding how to be better in school or like achieving better grades. So they were really shocked about how I was able to write a book while still keeping up with my studies as well. But I guess people who did show jealousy, I guess they weren't really my friends in the first place because...
That's right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, but I didn't really care about, everyone else's opinions. I kind of just tell them, and if they supported me, they supported me. But otherwise, I guess it's more my opinion that matters than
Oh,
theirs.
I love that. That's some gold right there. So, like, people they judge you, they probably never wrote a book.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And the people they actually wrote a book, they actually want to encourage you. And it's so refreshing to hear from a 16 years old that already understand who you should listen to.
Yeah.
Because I know there are a lot of people in the 40s and 50s, and they don't have the courage to put themselves out there
Yeah.
and be willing to go through that. That's actually amazing. Well done. Okay, so well done. I'm just letting sit and absorb it. I love that. What about teachers? What did I say?
Well, there was one teacher actually. I reached out to, so I mentioned in May, I started reaching out to people
Yes.
about, how they can help improve it and
Yeah.
feedbacks. So I reached out to my deputy principal. She used to be an English teacher.
Yeah.
So she really supported me. She went through the entire book. So she was able to explain how I can, the concepts like show, not tell for like English. So, working on my English skills as well, because they're not that great, but with the help I got, I was able to, work on that. So
Yeah.
she supported me a lot. She's, encouraged me to like speak in front of my grade or like
Yeah.
be, putting myself out there and stuff.
Okay, so you say speaking, you've done few events that you had to promote a book.
Yeah.
That you jumped on a stage. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a networking event that I went to, and the organizer of the event, he's, really supportive of my journey.
Yeah.
So he wanted me to come. Well, I asked, and he let me come up on the stage, talk about it, and yeah, so
that's how you promote the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
So networking events.
I'm asking this great because I'm learning. To clarify. So let's go back to that's correct. So. You started your writing journey. What did you do? You just went on your laptop, you got your words, and you just start to type in, or you have like a certain habit that you.
Yeah.
How did you? Because I know when I start to write things down, I need to have a habit, a location in my house or in my office where I need to just concentrate on it. How do you do it?
Yeah. So, well, like I mentioned, it started in year 8. That's when I started, writing down the possible characters' names, those kind of things, concepts that I could talk about.
Yeah.
And then in 2023, when I picked it up again, I again focused on the structure more. I didn't write as much in the early stages. And then, last year, I was focusing a lot on the structure and how the concepts flowed and stuff. But I think what really helped was writing it down and then expanding on each topic one by one, rather than, just writing. Because it also helped me like understand how much more I had to do. It was like a way to track my progress as well.
Yeah.
And it was like, I would write about one thing and then, I could get bored of writing that. So then I like went to the next thing. So, yeah.
Okay. So, in regards the book title.
Yeah.
So, how did you come about like, all right, I'm going to talk about finances? Because I believe this is every writer's, especially the first time, they go through an overthinking process until they find, I want to write a book about, should I write about my business or should I about myself?
Yeah.
Should I talk about personal development or should I talk about marketing? So, I mean, how did you choose like, all right, I'm going to write a book on finances? Because that's how did you find that specific topic?
I mean, I guess I didn't really consider any other topics. It was kind of like I guess I understood that there was a gap between how financial literacy is taught. I mean, so many of the books that are out there, they're really like intimidating, or so many concepts that can be hard for like a first-time person to read and understand and be like, oh yes, I can do this.
Agree.
So I guess my book is more of a way to put it all into really simple terms. The characters, they're average Aussies. So it's a way for the people, the readers, to understand and relate to those characters. And it's also, I guess, about the financial literacy. It's not being taught in school. And, that's the subtitle of my book as well. It's not taught in school. So it was my way of putting it out there and exposing more people, inspiring more people, for them to be able to understand the concepts and at least know that it's something that they can do as well. Because I guess there's a lot of misconceptions about how you must be wealthy to be successful in investing.
You're right.
Or you need to know everything so then you can, be successful again. But I guess even just taking those small steps and then turning it into habits and then, making it a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then it's those kind of things that help to build up the overall vision.
Nice. I love this. You mentioned habits and lifestyle.
Yeah.
Tell us about your habits right now, because you've been able to write a book,
Yeah.
run a business, and doing well at school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for a 16 years old, there's a lot going on right there. So what's your day-to-day schedule right now? What time you wake up? What time you go to school? What time you finish? How do you break it down?
Yeah. So I guess I like to focus on, the personal growth and then the working and then also relaxing, because obviously you can't just always be doing 100% productivity.
Sorry if I stop.
Yeah.
Repeat that again.
Yeah.
I really like, because we need to digest that. So first one, say again.
Personal growth.
Yes.
So working on yourself.
Yeah.
And then there's a second, the work ethic. So, achieving your work goals as well. And then the third thing, which is the most important, is relaxing and having fun. So, doing things that actually make you happy. So for me, that would be, like even not reading. So for me, that would be listening to music or watching TV shows or, watching movies. So those kind of things.
Switch off.
Yeah, to just switch off, turn everything off and just, have some fun and relax.
And thank you. Thank you. Sometimes I'm talking about myself. Sometimes I struggle to switch off. I'm full on with my job, but so refreshing. What do you see with people your similar age?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I often see, and this is, based on my family member and cousins, and I see they spend a lot of time play video games, which I'm not against with.
Yeah.
It's so refreshing seeing someone actually write a book.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Now, what do you see out there at the moment? And I believe that's the reason you wrote a book, because there is a gap. Do you know what I mean? What do you see out there when you go to school?
Yeah. I mean, so I'm in my final years of schooling.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are very focused on the academics now. So being able to achieve the good grades in like HSC and your ATAR.
Yeah.
But I think what we don't touch upon is what to do afterwards. After year 12, it's all about, managing yourself. You're adult now, so you're in like the big world. So it's hard to, no one really teaches you about the financial literacy or what you should do about, budgeting or like saving, investing, setting goals for yourself. Because, and not that it's a bad thing, but I see so much like impulse spending, I guess. So many people who are going, because we have a petrol station across the road from school.
Yeah.
So people are just like in their free periods, they'll go down, hot chocolate or like coffee.
Yeah.
And then I think to myself, I'm like, where are you getting the money from? You know what I mean? There's like, so I guess it's more about setting in those healthy habits. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to, buy your good treats and stuff. I do it myself too.
Yeah.
But I guess it's controlling yourself as well, or, saying, only one thing for this week, or, that kind of
removing impulsive decision.
Yeah.
I love that. Save money and budget. Okay. What would you say is the first step for someone they struggle to put some money away? Maybe they want to invest, but they can't accumulate money for a deposit, for example. What would you say is the first step?
Yeah. I mean, I talk about it in my book as well. There's this, what I've done. So obviously this is a very small example of what I've done. I have like a little piggy bank, and it's one that I can't open up. So once I put the money in there, it's locked away until I like break it open.
Right.
So I guess that's my smaller version of doing it.
Yeah.
But in a way, for the real life, I would say, setting aside like 10% of your income or like 20%, according to whatever works for you,
Yeah.
putting aside that income and, locking it away until you actually need it for investing or whatever you want to spend the money on.
So like try to save 10% at the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like being like creating that habit, like always, oh, here's my paycheck, there's 10% gone. I'm actually only got 90%, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So then you focus on, putting the money away first and then doing your spending rather than spending and then saving.
Yeah, that's great. Even like this is actually very good. So save money first and spend after, not the opposite. Don't spend it first and like, oh, is there anything left over? You're not gonna have anything left over. Is that correct to say that the first step as well will be tracking your expenses and understand where your money goes?
Yeah,
first?
Definitely.
That's what I've done. Like I have a couple of investments. I have one property, planning to buy the second one. The first big step was to save for a deposit.
Definitely.
And what I did in my case, the first one is understanding my expenses. How much am I spending on rent? How much am I spending on food? How much am I spending on this before I want to save some money?
Yeah.
Is that correct to say, like, the first step you understand where do you spend your money?
Definitely. So it's definitely first understand where you are right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you want to create the habits of saving money, but it's important to understand where you are now, what your current financial environment is, what's actually happening in your life, and what steps you need to take to change that. And obviously you might be thinking, oh, I don't know how that happens. But then again, there's people out there to help you, accountants or financial advisors. They're all there to help you do these things,
Yeah, what's funny that you just mentioned financial advisor. I had a chat with this guy. He's big, Ben Nash. He's and I referred them a couple of clients to them, and he said the same thing. He's a financial advisor. So, well done. Okay, thank you. The other things that I want to ask you is your online presence and how you utilize social media instead of being utilized by social media.
Yeah.
And I know younger they are, easier is to be hooked.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that you need to have 60, because I know 45, 55 years old, they're hooked on social media scrolling. We could go anywhere. So what are you doing now for your social media? And this can be marketing strategy. And the other question about social media is how do you use social media instead of be distracted and be used by social media? Yeah.
I mean, I guess it comes down to, so for my book, what I've been doing, I've created an Instagram account. I've been posting on my LinkedIn. So it's it's not salesy stuff. It's, giving tips or tricks, like how to achieve your goals, those kind of things. So I've been creating content for some while now, but I do want to expand more on it.
Yeah.
I want to expand my following and, really put out the tips and tricks. So for people who are hooked by social media, they can scroll down and then they'll see my stuff and they can learn a bit more while still being hooked, I guess.
Yeah, okay. Do you get distracted? That happen to you? Like sometimes you go there and you need to see a couple of DMs for your book and you end up watching cat videos? Did it happen?
Definitely. I mean, probably not cat videos, but...
My girlfriend loves... I have a cat and she always end up watching cat video and she get hooked and I get hooked and I was like, okay. Any tips regards... Like, do you remove notification regards removing distraction? Because I believe your schedule is pretty full on. You got school, you got book, you need to market your book, you're managing a business. Like, that is something you're doing from a... What do you do on your phone? Like, do you turn notification off? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I recently learned that it's really good to turn off all your notifications. So I only have it on for like my important apps like LinkedIn or like Instagram, because those are the ones that I've used for like work and stuff. But then other than that, my phone's like pretty much always on do not disturb. So I'm never getting those notifications unless I tell myself that I need to check my phone. Then I go onto it.
Okay. So turn notification off. Okay. Love that. Now, going back to the book,
Yeah.
what would you say is the healthy time frame that you want to, for someone who's writing the first time a book,
Yeah.
to actually say, hey, don't expect this going to happen in 2 months.
Yeah.
Expect like it's going to be a process. It looks like every people I speak to, they actually done it like you.
Yeah.
Has been a process. What would
Yeah.
you say? 12 months, 2 years?
Yeah.
What would you say roughly? Of course, every person is different.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there isn't a time frame in like it's really good to set a deadline and then working towards that deadline. But I can't tell you what your deadline would be because it's up to you to decide. So you need to set your own goals, figure out when I can fit, writing a book or like even any other goal. I guess this isn't just about writing a book.
Yeah.
It's also like can I put an hour every day or maybe like 15 minutes every day or like an hour at the end of the week, those kind of things. And then saying, okay, realistically, if I do those things over the span of, 52 weeks, 1 year, I'll be able to write a book. But I think what's most important is having the deadline because unless you don't have that deadline, you're just going to keep going. I mean, you can always go that one step better, like just keep going further and further. So
interesting. Having a deadline, get people to, I can't remember which one is the law called, when you put like an end beginning with the end in mind.
Yeah.
Pushes you to actually try to get it done. Did you have like a certain time every day, like, oh, I spend 20 minutes a day, or I spend half an hour a day, or doesn't matter? Well, how do you create a habit every day to say, I'm gonna?
I mean, for me, it was a bit harder because, with school, there was like assessment periods or like times where I had to focus a bit more on school rather than the book.
Yeah.
But I guess it was finding that balance as well. So working on my book when I had the time. So sometimes I wake up early in the morning to, focus on things, or like I might know that I have to finish this by a certain day. So I'm working towards that goal. But what's funny as well was we went to America and New Zealand at the start of this year. So America was mid-year, but we hired a car. So we were in the car, and in the backseat, I was, typing away, writing, planning. So I guess it was a really long, extensive process, but it was so worth it in the end because of, the praise and support that I'm getting now.
Yeah. Do you use like any specific device? You just a laptop? Sometimes you go on your phone. Sometimes you go on the iPad. Where do you go? Because often I find myself writing on a phone.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what works for you is going to work best for you. But for me, I did a lot of the planning on pen and paper. I did a lot of like mind mapping. I probably still have the book somewhere with like pages of just, of what I've done.
Yeah.
And then later on, I put it all into a laptop. That's where I mainly worked. I worked on Google Docs.
Yeah.
So putting it all down and then expanding one by one. Because I feel like that's the good thing about technology is you can go in, edit it, and then it, works around it.
Yeah. And what about people that use ChatGPT to write a book? How legit is that, and how real is that, and how connected with people it is? Have you ever tried? Because I got people, oh, you can write a book in 1 week. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I guess ChatGPT can be good if you're using it for the right right purpose. And what I found is it's good to like get ideas from it, but writing the entire book from it would be a bit silly. I mean, the entire point of writing a book is putting something out that you're, passionate about, or like you are like you're knowledgeable about it.
It's a self-discovery process. Like
exactly.
Even Jordan Peterson say, like, writing is thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, please keep going.
Yeah. So, well, for a period of time, it was also writing for me as well. Like it was for putting my thoughts out there. And then later on, it was like, how can I share this with the world now?
Yeah.
So how can I inspire other people?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, ChatGPT can be good for, prompt. Like, it depends on how your prompts are, You have to understand how to use AI to your best of abilities. I mean, it's not just about, oh, ChatGPT, write me a book of 1,200 words, and then it like goes ahead and writes you a book.
Yeah.
But it needs to be something that you actually put in thought in mind. Because
Yeah.
if you compared like a ChatGPT book and a human book, I guess I'm pretty sure a human book would be better, but
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I agree. I haven't wrote a book, but I want to, and I'm going through the process now. And yeah, I agree. Like, I believe you want to write a book because you're going through a self-discovery process at the same time,
Yeah.
and make your thinking clearer and more effective. And that's maybe, yeah, I agree with what you say. Use ChatGPT not to write a book, but to bring ideas where you can evolve and make your own.
Yeah.
Amazing. Love this. Hey, another couple of questions. I know we've been already 40 minutes. The other question I have for you is, you've been speaking on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people freaks out.
Yeah.
They go on the stage, oh my God. So how did you... Yeah, give some tips for people, like every time they feel nervous.
Yeah.
I know before this podcast you were a little like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But you're doing great.
Yeah.
So yeah, how was the first time you went on the stage to actually market your book?
Yeah. So it was actually the first time that I was, put myself out there.
Yeah.
It was this I don't know how to frame it. It was
So like
yeah,
networking
it was
event or what's
yeah, it was a personal development, I guess, camp. It was a weekend. It's
Yeah.
called Empower You. I highly recommend for
I've heard.
it's from Brent Williams. It's really good, but it was basically there. It's basically, teenagers, young adults. It's for those people to understand where you want to go, give you clarity about stuff. And it's really life-changing. I really recommend. But it was there where
Empower You. Yeah.
it was there where I first talked about my book, and I was, terrified at first.
Yeah.
I wrote a little script before, and I got on stage.
Yeah.
I talked about a few things, but there was so many
Completely.
things that I missed out on. But yeah, it
It's
was
normal because all the pressure, you forget like what
Yeah.
I was talking about.
Yeah.
Well done. Okay, that's amazing. Actually, on that, because I did a bit of acting and theater, and this
Yeah.
is what I'm admiring about you, because I saw you like before the starting the podcast. We were like, but you keep going.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You work through it, and
Yeah.
now it looks like you're comfortable. Hopefully, I made you feel comfortable. What's the tip
Mhm.
to people? They are, and this is for the overthinkers.com.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyone they're like, oh, I want to write a book. Oh, I don't know, people judge me.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to go on the stage. Oh, I can't do it. So
Yeah.
because I believe a lot of people the main issue they have, they think too much.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the tip that you give on people when they go through the stage of, oh, I'm nervous, oh no, I'm relaxed? What's the tip would you give to them?
Yeah. I mean, for myself, I think that I do quite. I'm guilty of overthinking as well sometimes, but I guess it's more about having people who support you, and so
Yeah.
my parents played a huge part in that. They've helped me, push me forward, support me, but then also like my friends and stuff, they're there to tell me like, oh, good job, you did like a really good, like those kind of things, the positive reinforcement. But I guess having the support community and surrounding yourself with people who actually care about what you're doing, understand why you're doing it, and then pushing you forward to do even better, rather than having those people who are, side-eyeing you or like, looking
Negative.
down on you. They're like,
Yeah.
why are you doing that kind of thing?
Don't hang around them.
Yeah.
They can be like cancers.
Definitely.
Okay, now on that, more you talk, more things I pick up. The other one is dealing with rejection,
Mhm.
because I believe through the process of publishing a book, you went
Yeah.
through some processes. You
Yeah.
went through some people say, no good. Oh, change it. Is that correct? what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Okay.
Yeah, so like in May when I, reached out to people, some people didn't respond to the emails.
There you go.
That was, but obviously it's part of the process. They're busy people that I was reaching out to. So of course not everyone's gonna be like, oh yes, I'll hop onto this and start doing it. But then there's also I forgot.
No, so you went through numbers, and you mentioned
Yeah.
some, and they're busy, and so you
Yeah.
went through numbers
Yeah, and then
until
even
you find the one that helped you
Yeah.
out.
even the feedback I got, I thought, originally I thought it was a good book, but then they came back with feedback and they were like, oh, you don't have that much character development. Like you don't have, the way you've explained stuff doesn't make sense. Or like, oh, you shouldn't have this sentence in it. It's like, it's there for nothing.
Yeah.
So then instead of being like, oh no, everyone thinks that I have a bad book, like it's horrible. It was more about, implementing the feedback. How can I make it better? How can I take it to the next level instead?
I love that. So so get the feedback.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need to go back in order for you to move forward.
Yeah.
There is something I've heard some ways called setbacks are feedbacks. I love that.
Yeah.
And keep working until you get there.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Hey, last two questions after I let you go. All right.
Okay.
I promise. So the next stage, what's the future for you? What's the plan? Where are you going? Because you got a book. You got already a couple of businesses. So you're 16 years old. So we're excited to see what's the plan.
Yeah. I mean, I want to really expand my impact and, expose more people about these concepts because, so many books, like I said, they're so technical and intimidating. But I want to be able to show everyone that, you don't need to be like crazy rich to be successful. You don't need to have like a really good background behind you to do something good in your future. It's about those small steps that people can take and turning that into habits, making it a lifestyle, and then, doing what you love and, taking money as a way to empower you rather than, focusing on, oh, my numbers, like I've saved this much money, yay me. It's more about, creating those opportunities, financial freedom. We talk about it. It seems like such a long-term goal. Like, I mean, it is a long-term goal, but it's something that gives opportunities. Like I've seen from my parents as well, they've got their own property portfolio. So it's allowed us as a family to travel more. Like we've done, I think, 2 or 3 international trips already this year. So we were able to do that based on the opportunities and, what like the money has been able to follow us rather than we're like chasing after, oh, I have this much money, I have this much investments. It's more about creating the opportunities and being like, yes, I can do this.
Love that. I'm gonna break it down because I really want to get into the details. So using money as a vehicle to get where you want to go.
Yeah.
And use money instead of be used by them.
Yeah.
Like, and what you say is set up certain assets where they can feed your day-to-day lifestyle and contribute your day-to-day lifestyle, where you can get to the point you can choose if you want to go to school today or not.
Yeah.
That's why I feel bad. Like, are you sure you want to come on Wednesday morning? I was like, you can afford to choose if you want to have 3-4 trips overseas, or it's just money is more like having the options and choices to do whatever you like.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much. I'm gonna buy this book, okay, because I want to support and I'm a fan of what you're doing. Where people can find you. This is the name of the book. Do you have a website?
So I have a website. It's called Class Clown to Wealth Wizard.
Yeah.
And you can order an autographed copy, signed by myself, of course.
There you go.
Yeah. Or it's also on Amazon for international buyers.
Yeah.
And then there's also a Kindle for it. So if you don't want to invest, if you don't like reading paper, then you can, get on a Kindle. You can read that anywhere. So even though it's on Amazon Kindle, you don't need to have an actual Kindle to read it.
Yeah.
But then I'm also on Instagram, Class Clown to Wealth Wizard. Pretty much that's the username.
I'm gonna put a link below.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
People can watch and have a look if they're interested in. Is there anything else we should mention before I let you go?
Yeah. I mean, for everyone listening, I think it's best to start taking those small steps. It's like planting a seed almost. At first there's going to be no growth. You won't see anything happening. But once it starts happening, it'll flourish into a beautiful garden.
Oh, love that. That's amazing. Okay, now you made me think another question. Sorry, I'll let you go. You mentioned you want to inspire people. You want to get more into the financial world, like... And this can be real estate, and this can be finances, financial planning, or more into the personal development, which is in a certain way linked.
Yeah. I mean, Well, I know that in the future I want to run a business. I haven't obviously thought about what exactly I want to do. It could be something finance related, personal development related, or even like digital marketing, something that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do want to inspire people. It's about, I guess, like you said, the personal development and the financial literacy, they go hand in hand. Like, if you can't work on your financial literacy without actually having a reason of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then you can't work on personal development if, I guess, you don't have the money or resources to do that. So
Yeah.
it's about working on both things at once rather than focusing on it individually.
I love it. Hey, thank you so much for coming in. Well done. You did great. I'm going to buy the book, and you can follow Jia on Instagram. You got
Yeah.
everything. LinkedIn,
Facebook, YouTube.
You got a YouTube channel
Yeah.
as well, and we're going to put this interview on my YouTube, and it's going to be on Spotify, Apple, everywhere. So when people type your name, you're going to pop up.
Yeah.
Great work. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
in.
you so much for having me.
Hey, that was good. How you
Yeah.
feeling?
That was good.
This is general advice and does not take into consideration your objectives, situation, or needs. You should consider if this advice is suitable to you or your circumstances, and please read any applicable PDFs beforehand. This is a Henderson podcast production.